Perfect. Then the boys are hitting the town. Leo threw his arms around their shoulders, acting like they were college brothers. Before we wrapped things up, everyone swapped contact info with Christian. Leo immediately added him to our childhood group chat, changing the name from the Core 4 to the VIP Lounge. I watched closely as Christian looked down at his phone. His jaw tightened slightly as he tried to suppress a smirk. Chapter 18. Over the next few days, I plunged right back into the corporate meat grinder. I was waking up before sunrise and crawling into bed past midnight, working until my brain felt entirely numb. Today, a critical project brief needed to be delivered to Apex for executive review. Desperate for a change of scenery and some fresh air, I immediately volunteered to deliver it myself. When I arrived at the Apex corporate tower, the receptionist informed me that the department head was out of the office, and I was instructed to take the files directly to the president's suite on the penthouse floor. An executive assistant escorted me up via the private express elevator. The doors slid open to reveal a sharp, clean-cut young man waiting by the entrance. He offered a polite, welcoming smile. "Miss, welcome. I'm Brian, Mr. Albright's senior strategist." I stepped out of the elevator and nodded back. "Hi, Brian. Nice to meet you." He gestured down the hallway. "Right this way, please. Mr. Albright is expecting you in his office." The entire executive floor was dead silent, with no other staff in sight. The main assistant pool was likely down the hall in the central operations room. Brian opened the massive double doors to the corner office, waiting for me to step through before quietly pulling them shut behind me. The office was breathtaking, dominated by a massive floor-to-ceiling glass wall that ran the entire length of the room. From up here, the chaotic city traffic below looked like tiny streaks of light. The afternoon sun poured through the glass, casting a striking golden border around Christian as he sat hunched over his mahogany desk. I walked up to the desk and offered a formal greeting. "Mr. Albright." Christian gave a faint nod, his long fingers curling slightly as his knuckles tapped the polished wood, signaling me to lay the documents down. As he began reviewing the files, I noticed him repeatedly pinching the bridge of his nose, leaving a faint red mark between his eyes. Looking closer, his skin was incredibly pale, but a sharp, unnatural flush was creeping up his cheeks. As he pinched his nose again, I couldn't help but speak up. "Mr. Albright, are you feeling all right?" Christian looked up, shaking his head slightly. "I'm fine," he muttered. His voice was terrifyingly raspy, sounding like it took immense physical effort just to force the words out. Chapter 19. The absolute friction in his voice made my eyebrows instantly knit together. I stared at him with deep concern. "Are you sure? You look completely flushed." Before I could finish the sentence, Christian exploded into a violent coughing fit. The coughs were deep and heavy, sounding like he was about to tear his lungs apart. He slammed a hand over his mouth, doubling over as he struggled to catch his breath. "Christian!" Panic seized me. I rushed around the massive desk, grabbing his shoulder to steady him while rubbing his back. I was completely out of my depth, watching in horror as the light in his eyes began to glaze over. "Christian? Look at me. Can you hear me?" I called out frantically, trying to keep him conscious. He kept his eyes squeezed shut for a long moment before slowly opening them, a helpless, exhausted smile touching his lips. "I'm sorry. What is wrong with you? Where does it hurt?" I reached out rapidly, intending to slam the intercom button on his desk to call for medical assistance. "Don't," Christian caught my wrist, his grip halting my movement as he whispered hoarsely, "Don't call anyone. I'm fine." The intense, burning heat radiating from his skin through his grip told me everything I needed to know. He was running a massive fever. "You are burning up. We need to get you to an urgent care clinic." "I'm calling Brian." "No, I know my own limits. I just need medication." He looked completely drained, yet his tone remained stubbornly unyielding. "Could you do me a favor and grab the medical kit? It's in the executive lounge, first cabinet on the right as you walk in." He pointed a weak finger toward a hidden door in the wood paneling. Hearing that painful, gravelly voice, I nodded immediately. "Okay, stay right there. I'll get it." Christian offered a faint, almost dazed smile that made me genuinely worried his brain was melting from the fever. He released his grip on my wrist, and I didn't waste a single second. I threw open the door to the private lounge and searched for the medical supplies. By the time I grabbed the heavy white kit and rushed back into the main office, Christian had completely collapsed back into his leather chair, his head tilted slightly to the side, his stunning eyes tightly shut. "Christian! Christian!" My heart slammed against my ribs. I dropped the kit and shook his shoulder. There was no response, and the dangerous flush on his cheekbones had only intensified. "Hey, wake up!" "I found the medicine," I tried again, raising my voice. Christian's long eyelashes fluttered slightly before his eyes cracked open. I popped the blister pack, pressed the pills into his hand, and hurried over to the water dispenser to bring him a warm glass. "Take these right now." He pushed his elbows against the armrests, forcing himself upright, and swallowed the pills down with a heavy gulp of water. Setting the empty glass down, he looked up at me. "Thank you. You should head back to your office. I'll text you the revisions on the proposal later tonight." His voice was dripping with absolute exhaustion. "I'm staying right here until the fever breaks. Go to sleep." Realizing I wasn't going to budge, he gave up the fight, leaning his head back and closing his eyes. A half hour ticked by in silence, and the terrifying color on his face finally began to cool down. He opened his eyes and looked at me. "The meds are kicking in. I'm much better. Seriously, go home." I studied his face, and seeing that he was actually stabilizing, I finally nodded. "Fine, but you need to rest. I'm going to update Brian on your way out. If you feel dizzy again, hit that intercom immediately." I packed up the medical kit, preparing to leave. But after I took a few steps toward the exit, his voice cut through the quiet room. "Chloe." I stopped and turned back, looking at him with confusion. Christian bit his lip, hesitating for a long moment before the words finally came out, "Thank you." Then, he smiled. It was a soft, entirely unguarded smile. The expression hit me with a violent wave of nostalgia. It was a look from a lifetime ago. The boy from my childhood used to look at me exactly like that, a smile that felt like sunlight hitting cotton candy, pure and incredibly gentle. Don't mention it. Maybe it was the vulnerability of being sick, but the freezing, untouchable executive had completely vanished. In his place sat someone warm and profoundly gentle. Chapter 20. On my drive back to headquarters, my phone started buzzing continuously in the console. Once I parked and walked up to my desk, I opened the messages. It was a comprehensive breakdown from Christian, detailing his feedback and highly strategic recommendations for our joint proposal. Thinking about how he had refused to go to the hospital and immediately plunged right back into intense corporate strategy the second his fever broke made me let out a long, complicated sigh. From the total collapse of the Albright empire to his rise as the head of a multinational firm, the sheer amount of blood, sweat, and tears he must have poured into his survival was something only Christian would ever truly understand. Me, is your fever completely gone? Christian, much better now. Thanks for checking in. Me, good. Keep it that way. Chapter 21. The next time I saw Christian was at the formal gala celebrating the successful execution of our project's first phase. It was a massive corporate victory for both firms, organized to reward the staff and maintain momentum for the next quarter. As evening fell, I arrived at the luxury hotel venue, having hitched a ride with Sarah. The second I stepped into the grand ballroom, I spotted my father, who also happened to be my ultimate boss, sitting in a private booth, deep in conversation with Christian. Christian looked immaculate, wearing a tailored black tuxedo paired with a deep midnight blue silk tie. His hair was styled perfectly. Though he still carried a trace of lingering fatigue from his illness, his natural, high society elegance was completely undeniable. I had no idea what technicalities they were debating, but my dad's face was glowing with absolute approval, nodding and smiling warmly at everything Christian said. I scanned the sprawling ballroom, found an open seat at a table with some familiar colleagues, and joined the conversation. The gala kicked off officially with the usual executive speeches, both CEOs taking turns delivering standard praise and corporate encouragement, before the floor opened for dinner and drinks. Midway through the reception, Sarah leaned over and whispered that an urgent operational emergency required her to leave the venue immediately. She apologized profusely, explaining that I would have to find my own ride home since she couldn't drop me off anymore. "Don't worry about it at all, Sarah," I insisted. "Go take care of it. I can easily call an Uber." She gave me an appreciative nod and hurried out. Once the gala wrapped up, I intentionally lingered behind, waiting for the crowd to thin out so I could slide into my dad's executive car and hitch a ride back with him. But the moment I turned my head, my dad had completely vanished. I did a double take across the empty floor, finding no sign of him anywhere. I muttered a curse under my breath. He had literally been standing there a minute ago. Suddenly, my phone vibrated twice. I opened it to find a text from my dear old man. "Dad, sweetheart, you aren't getting any younger. It's time to start dating. I think young Albright is an absolute catch. Play your cards right." Me. I let out a slow, painful sigh. Completely unreliable. Guess I was on my own. I opened a rideshare app to request a vehicle when a firm tap landed on my shoulder. I spun around to find Christian standing right behind me. "Let me drive you home." "What?" I blinked, completely caught off guard. My brain stalled. Had my dad seriously gone over and given him a matchmaking lecture too? "Everyone else has already left, and I noticed you were stranded," Christian explained smoothly. In the brief time I had been looking at my phone, the ballroom had completely emptied out. The entire space was dead silent, leaving just the two of us under the massive crystal chandeliers. Before I could formulate a polite rejection, Christian smiled. "Consider it payback for taking care of me when I was burning up in my office." "Oh, I barely did anything," I said, waving my hands dismissively. "Let's go." Without waiting for another word, Christian turned and walked toward the exit. Hey, I didn't actually agree to this. But since things had already played out this way, making a scene or refusing would just make it incredibly awkward. I dragged my feet and followed him out. It should have been a standard, mundane ride home, but with my dad's unhinged text burning a hole in my mind, my entire skin felt hyper-aware and strange. Chapter 22. His car was parked right in the VIP lot outside the lobby, so it took us no time to reach it. I reached out, intending to open the rear passenger door, but Christian beat me to it, pulling open the front passenger door and tilting his head to signal me inside. I hesitated for a fraction of a second before ducking my head and sliding into the premium leather seat, clicking my seatbelt into place. Christian walked around the hood, slid into the driver's seat, and immediately hit the central lock button. A sudden thought hit me, and I turned to face him. "Wait, you didn't drink any alcohol tonight, right?" Christian clearly didn't expect that question. He let out a low, amused chuckle. Relax. I didn't touch a drop. I nodded, letting the conversation drop. The powerful engine purred to life, and the car glided out of the hotel lot. I stared out the front windshield as the city blurred past, The massive, overlapping shadows of trees blocked out the neon glare of the commercial district, and the suburban streetlights grew dimmer as we drove further out. A cool night wind brushed against my face through the slightly cracked window, carrying a sharp chill. The car rocked gently over the smooth asphalt, feeling almost like a cradle. After weeks of pure exhaustion, a heavy wave of drowsiness washed over me. Just as my consciousness began to slip, the entire chassis veered violently to the right, followed by a sickening metallic crunch and a massive impact. I bolted awake, my eyes flying open as the car plowed straight into a raised concrete median on the side of the road. Before my brain could process the crash, the tires shrieked against the asphalt as Christian slammed on the brakes. The violent momentum threw my body forward, only for the seatbelt to painfully snap me back against the seat. Gasping for breath, I looked over to the driver's side. The driver's door was severely dented inward, and Christian was hunched over, his right hand gripping his left wrist, his face contorted in pain. Seeing me panic, Christian forced his grip loose. "Are you hurt? Did anything hit you?" "I'm completely fine, but your wrist, it's nothing." He unbuckled his belt, preparing to force the dented door open to inspect the damage. "Stop," I commanded, leaning across the center console and grabbing his left forearm, pulling his hand into the light. I inspected it thoroughly. The skin around his wrist was already swelling and turning a dark red, but the bone alignment looked intact. I let out a massive sigh of relief. Releasing his arm, we managed to scramble out of the passenger side to assess the scene. A standard sedan had plowed directly into the side of Christian's vehicle, its front bumper completely crushed into an accordion shape. The driver inside was slumped over the steering wheel, completely motionless. Knowing that moving an injured person could cause spinal damage, we didn't dare pull him out. I immediately dialed 911, requesting police and medical backup. Within minutes, the night sky was flooded with flashing blue and red lights as sirens wailed down the empty road.
因为只有他乖乖的时候，我才会用手机拍他。他不乖的时候，我都是直接用手拍的。
The root cause of the entire wreck was simple. The guy was completely hammered. Per standard procedure, the highway patrol officer pulled Christian aside to take his statement. Christian answered every question with cold, clinical precision.
知道他为什么这么乖吗？因为只有他乖乖的时候，我才会用手机拍他。他不乖的时候，我都。
Avoid the impact entirely, the officer asked. I had a passenger in the front seat, Christian replied deadpan. The accident had occurred at a sharp intersection. We had the right of way, and the drunk driver had blown through a blinking red light. I turned back to look at the exact spot where the crash happened. Under the dim streetlights, a thick concrete utility wall stood right at the edge of the curb. If Christian had swerved right to save himself, the passenger side of the car would have slammed directly into solid concrete at 50 miles per hour. Chapter 23. I stared at Christian's silhouette as he continued talking to the officers. The distant city lights blurred behind him, casting a warm, amber glow around his sharp features. As if sensing my gaze, Christian turned his head, his eyes locking directly onto mine. We stood there, completely silent, as a bizarre, electric tension sparked between us. I could hear my own heart hammering against my chest, sounding like fireworks exploding in a closed space. Ahem. I quickly ripped my eyes away, focusing intently on a patch of weeds swaying in the night breeze. Christian watched my sudden retreat, a small smirk playing at the corner of his lips before he turned back to conclude his talk with the police. Once the officers cleared him, I walked back over to his side. What's the status? We're clear to leave, Christian said. The police are taking him to the precinct to sober up, and my legal team will handle the insurance and litigation tomorrow. I nodded, and we both climbed back into the vehicle. Once the doors shut, shutting out the sirens, I glanced at Christian. His right hand was resting on the steering wheel, his index finger tapping an anxious, erratic rhythm. He looked completely exhausted. Knowing his left wrist was injured and swelling fast, I made a sudden executive decision. Move over. I'm driving. I'll drop you off at your place, keep the car at my garage overnight, and drive it to the repair shop first thing tomorrow. Christian went silent for a second, then shook his head. No need. I can manage. Absolutely not. I am driving, I insisted, digging my heels in. Consider it practice. I haven't driven an SUV in ages. Seeing him about to argue again, I quickly added fuel to the fire. Oh. He cocked an eyebrow, a rare, teasing glint in his eyes. Should I call my insurance company right now to see if I'll actually make it home alive? You need to have some faith in my driving skills, I declared with absolute confidence. He let out a low, beautiful laugh and finally relented. Fine. We quickly swapped seats, and I successfully took command of the wheel. I fired up the navigation system, typed in the high-end residential address he gave me, and pressed down on the gas. The car rolled smoothly past the debris on the road, merging into the late-night traffic. I was supposed to be the one driving you home, but somehow it turned into you chauffeuring me. Christian's low voice drifted over from the passenger seat, sounding like a quiet murmur to himself. I glanced over at him. He had already closed his eyes, leaning heavily against the headrest. The man was running on pure adrenaline. I refocused on the road, carefully managing the brakes to keep the ride as smooth and stable as possible. The interior of the car fell into absolute silence, while the night scenery outside blurred past like a slow-motion indie film. Eventually, the car rolled into his luxury apartment complex and slid into an open parking spot in the resident deck. I turned to look at Christian. His breathing was deep and even, he was completely knocked out. I hesitated for a brief second before reaching out to shake his shoulder gently. Christian. We're here. Christian rubbed his eyelids, forcing his eyes open. Sorry. I was supposed to make sure you got home safe. I shook my head, shifting the car into park. Don't worry about it. Go upstairs, put some ice and ointment on that wrist, and get some sleep. Yeah. You should get going too, it's incredibly late. Drive carefully, and text me the second you walk through your door. Will do. Christian popped the door open and stepped out onto the concrete, turning back to wave me off. I offered a quick smile, waved back, and shifted the car into reverse. But the moment I cleared the underground security gate and reached the exit of the complex, a violent crack of thunder echoed overhead. Within a split second, massive, heavy sheets of rain slammed into the front windshield, completely obliterating my vision. My phone started ringing loudly in the cup holder. I pulled the car over to the curb, cranked the wipers to maximum speed, and hit the hazard lights. I snatched up the phone, the caller ID flashed, Christian. Hey, I answered. The visibility is practically zero. It's too dangerous to drive, his voice crackled through the speaker, accompanied by a faint electronic hiss. Don't try to make it back to your place tonight. I'll book a room for you at the boutique hotel down the street. As he spoke, the downpour intensified, sounding like gravel throwing itself against the roof. Outside the windows, the entire world had turned into a blurry, watery sheets of gray. I stared at the blinding rain with a heavy frown. Driving in this would be suicide. Where are you parked right now? Christian asked when I didn't immediately respond. I pulled myself together. I haven't even cleared your main gate yet. I'll just look up a hotel nearby on my phone. Look out your window, Christian's voice came through the line. I squinted through the cascading sheets of water on the glass, and sure enough, I spotted Christian standing by the curb under a massive black umbrella, the fabric shielding half his face as water poured off the edges. It looked like he had literally sprinted back down the second he walked into his apartment. He hadn't even put on a jacket. He was just wearing a thin white button-down shirt, the collar slightly loosened by the wind, revealing the sharp line of his collarbone. Chapter 24. While I was staring in shock, Christian walked up to the passenger side and knocked firmly on the glass. I quickly hit the unlock button. Christian pulled the door open, shook off his umbrella, and slid into the passenger seat. His clothes were soaked through, and his wet bangs were plastered against his forehead, a few dark strands catching on his eyelashes and casting a shadow over his deep, piercing eyes. The storm reached a terrifying peak, the rain hammering against the roof and glass with a deafening roar. The water was flowing so fast it looked like a literal waterfall over the windshield. Even at maximum speed, the wipers couldn't keep up. Christian knit his brows, staring out at the chaotic weather. The storm is too severe. Driving is out of the question, and the hotel is a few blocks away. If we try to walk there now, we'll be completely drenched in seconds. The fierce wind howled through the narrow street gaps, creating a sharp, whistling sound that made the entire SUV rock slightly. So we're basically trapped in a luxury car? I joked, letting out a helpless laugh. Christian nodded with absolute gravity. This downpour isn't letting up anytime soon. Lean your seat back and get some rest. Since there was literally no other viable alternative, I muttered a quick fine and hit the electronic lever, letting my seat drop back into a comfortable recline. Christian didn't immediately rest. Instead, he leaned into the back seat, grabbed a designer leather pillow, and unzipped it, transforming it into a plush travel blanket. He leaned over and carefully draped it over my shoulders, whispering a quiet, "Good night." Suddenly, a cold drop of water splashed directly onto my cheek. I froze for a second, and the moment my brain registered what it was, I bolted upright. Meeting Christian's slightly bewildered gaze, I blurted out, "Do you have any tissues in here?" Christian opened the glove compartment, pulled out a travel pack of Kleenex, and handed them over. I shook my head, pointing a finger directly at his dripping hair. "Your hair is soaking wet. If you go to sleep like that, you're going to wake up with a massive cold." Christian looked startled, clearly not expecting me to care, but he took a few sheets of tissue and carelessly rubbed at his forehead before tossing the crumpled paper onto the console. I couldn't stand watching such a terrible job. I snatched the pack from his hand and signaled him to lean down. He complied instantly, leaning his head close to mine, while casually grabbing a few extra tissues to lay over my lap to prevent any stray water droplets from ruining my clothes. "If you don't dry this completely, you're going to pay for it tomorrow morning," I lectured, pulling out a thick wad of tissues and meticulously drying his damp hair. Christian sat there like a perfectly behaved child, moving his head exactly wherever I directed him. Once I finished, I crumpled the damp tissues and threw them into the side pocket. Christian ran a hand through his hair, seemingly inspecting my handiwork, and offered a soft thank you with a grin. "All right, go to sleep." "I'm absolutely exhausted," I said, letting out a massive yawn. I clicked off the cabin lights, plunging the interior into pitch blackness. I settled back into my reclined seat. Christian stayed still for a moment before finally adjusting his own seat back. I grabbed one half of the large blanket and tossed it over his chest, keeping the other half for myself. A soft rustling sound echoed in the dark as Christian turned on his side to face me. My brain was completely fried from exhaustion, turned into mush as I mumbled into the dark, "The blanket is huge, plenty of room for both of us. Don't go catching a cold." Christian didn't say a word. He just silently pulled his half of the blanket securely over himself. The entire world faded into a deep quiet, save for the rhythmic, soothing patter of the rain against the roof, acting like the ultimate lullaby. Wrapped tight in the warmth of the blanket, with the cabin temperature sitting at a perfect, cozy level, I finally drifted into a deep, dreamless sleep. Chapter 25. When the first rays of morning sunlight cut through the side window, I cracked my eyes open to find Christian's profile right in front of me. Sometime during the night, I must have rolled over onto my side, waking up directly facing him. Christian looked like he had been awake for a while, sitting up slightly and scrolling through something on his phone. Morning.